Never-Ending Chain by Dragon Translator. Chapter 92. I suggest remembering. Alpha, Gita began as Ringfire tipped her head and moved to curl back up in upon herself and head towards the cliff. May I get my grandkids out of the house first? They may not take well to the noise. Oh, sure. Sorry. Gita grinned, tapping her son's neck. No worries, my Alpha. Gita? Astrid began as Shadowfire began to die from the line of dragons. Mum will watch them for you, if Frost and Pale need some time away from them. Thank you, Lady Alpha. Gita replied, I'll tell my son. The human acknowledges your rank as Alpha, the nightmare from the first group said. I did not know humans wanted. Hiccup turned to the nightmare, and he frowned. That human is the mage that lets us understand you, he said. The nightmare chittered and lowered her gaze. I meant no insult, Alpha of the Nest. I am just surprised. My mother always said I should think before I speak when surprised. Even as an elder, I sometimes forget her advice. Hiccup stared at her in silence for a few heartbeats. I see, he said finally. I suggest trying to remember. Yes, Alpha of the Nest. I apologize. I grant you mercy, Hiccup said. The nightmare had already annoyed Toothless with her questioning. Her belief that Hiccup would ever steal anything from his brother served to irritate Hiccup as well. Hiccup knew the dragons would use the term human in much the same way they used dragons. Humans were humans, and dragons were dragons. Yet the tone the nightmare had just now been the same as the nada when speaking about Astrid, and that had aggravated Hiccup. Realistically, he knew the dragons would be just as unsure as the humans about all of this. But Astrid was his queen, marriage rites performed or not. And Gita was the sister he never knew he wanted until he met and got to know the mage. Thank you, Alpha of the Nest, the nightmare said. I shall go and make the rock opening, Ringfire said, curling upon herself and disappearing over the edge of the cliff. Hiccup looked up to the sky and frowned. He turned to the riders. Rough, tough. You, Barf, Belch, Sugar and Spice, follow Ringfire and keep that sun peeking through the clouds from bothering her. Can we help her blow the cliff face up? Tough asked with a hopeful grin on his face. No. Aw, boss man, Tough grumbled. Hiccup snorted. We'll find something else for you six to blow up later. Ruff and Tough stared at Hiccup, and he could have sworn both sets of eyes twinkled. Ruff turned to her brother. Our boss man is so generous. He gives us snuggle tog gifts early. I know everyone thinks Astrid is his favourite because of the betrothal, but I think we're his favourites, sis. The two Zibblebacks lowered their heads slightly and followed the whispering death over the side of the cliff. The twins were still talking even as the dragons dove out of sight. Hiccup glanced at Astrid, finding her holding her hand over her mouth and sniggering. Alpha, Knowledge began. We can aid them, Wisdom continued. If... Knowledge said. You wish, Wisdom finished. Please, thank you. The elder Zibbleback tipped his head and then followed the others. Hiccup looked over and frowned. He shifted into the saddle and caught Fishleg's, Torgear and Snotlout's gazes. Go on back and help them with the decorating, he said. I'm going to take all of these to the field we spoke to Lawkeeper and the others in on that first day, and let them rest until Ringfire gets the opening made. But Hiccup, what about you? Torgear said. Yeah, cousin. Snotlout said, we all want you to help us decorate. Hiccup smiled. I know, but they need rest. They have flown far, and I'm sure all of their wings are sore. I don't want you all to miss out on the chance to spend some time with your dragons before tomorrow. So, go decorate. If you're sure, Fishleg said softly. I'm sure. I doubt it'll take Ringfire long. I'll come and help afterwards. The three Vikings nodded their heads. Their dragons and the dragons' mates tipped their heads before banking to dive in the village plaza next to the beginnings of the Snoggletog tree. Hiccup turned back to Astrid. He opened his mouth. I'm coming with you, she stated before he could speak. Hiccup snorted as the remaining nest dragons snickered. He noted the Nada from the second flock looked amused, while the ones from the first flock appeared confused. Follow us, Hiccup said, not wanting to delay the dragons in getting somewhere to rest by explaining. Stormfly and Toothless shifted out of a hover, heading for the field. Hiccup glanced over his shoulder, pleased to see the remaining nest dragons following, and the 2 flocks following them. They reached the field, and Hiccup pointed down. Toothless dove. Stormfly landed beside him. Windwalker landed next. Wind Dancer and the rest of the elders landed after him. The 2 flocks then landed. The Nada from the second flock was joined by others that Hiccup guessed were the elders of their species, while the elders of the first flock joined with the Gronkle. Both sets moved closer to Hiccup, Astrid, and the nest dragons. Before anyone could say anything, a series of chitters and squawks had everyone looking up. A third flock of dragons, also mixed, though holding more nightmares than the others, dove down from the clouds. By the direction their tails were in, Hiccup guessed this group came from the west. A lone blue-green nightmare dove lower, but did not land. It hovered just above everyone. It chittered something that sounded questioning. You can speak the common tongue, Toothless said in answer. My rider is the elder of the nest, and he and his attendant upon the back of the spike thrower can understand you. The nightmare blinked, but focused his gaze upon Hiccup. Hello, alpha of this nest, it said, its voice male. I must admit my surprise, but I know wind shriekers are not prone to flights of fantasy. Hey! Good, Stormfly said, a respectful greeting. Hiccup looked over. Since Stormfly stood close to Toothless so that Astrid would be as near as possible, Hiccup reached out and scratched her wing. Stormfly tilted her head and cooed at him. Hiccup smiled and looked back up at the Nada. Were you and those with you headed to the hatching nest? He asked. Yes, we were told the lava dweller that blocks the currents is dead. You heard correctly. Do you know how she died? The nightmare asked. We have heard varying accounts. Hiccup patted Toothless's head. My brother fired a plasma bolt into her mouth as she built up gas to flame us. On your order, my alpha, Toothless said. I know, Toothless, but I will always tell everyone what you did to help bring about her death. He scratched the top of Toothless's head, and his brother cooed. Hiccup then looked up at the nightmare. Please, he said, you and those with you, land and rest your wings. We are making a place for the 2 flocks here to rest until tomorrow. Offer no harm or insult to my nest, or those who live in it, and you are all free to rest as well. Thank you, Alpha of the Nest. As the oldest, I agree to those terms. The new flock landed, and those Hiccup guessed were the elders moved away and came close. Hiccup knew that many would be unnerved to so many dragons surrounding them, but he only felt comfort. He glanced at Astrid, finding her relaxed and unalarmed. He smiled. She had come a long way from the days where her goal had been to be the best at dragon training and win the honour of killing a dragon in front of the tribe. They had all come a long way. Alpha of the Nest? The Nada from the second flock began, and Hiccup shifted his attention to her. I am curious, and suspect the other elders are as well. How did this nest come about? Hiccup frowned, still not wanting to relive that time. He looked down at Toothless's head. Brother, why don't you and Stormfly tell them in the old tongue? He suggested, knowing it would be faster and he would not have to hear all that had happened. He also knew Astrid would not look guilty when certain events came up, because she would not know the dragons were speaking of those moments. Hiccup would do all he could to ensure Astrid never felt guilty again. She was too beautiful to be marred by sadness. Toothless tilted his head. Sure, brother. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this one. I like this one. This is the stage where they're truly transitioning into what I think of as their final forms, at least for this fic, and then opening referring to themselves as like the king and queen of the nest, so to speak, and Hiccup's just completely embraced loving Astrid properly now. Like he said before, marriage rights or not, they're basically married now. And all these bits with the other flocks, that third one finally being respectful and Stormfly, like, good, someone's not insulting my alpha and sister. You know, like, I like it. What can I say? This arc is more not as action packed, but I like the interactions. What can I say? I prefer the peaceful ones. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.